Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third and last part of this three-part exam prep series on PL-600, Microsoft Power Platform Solution Architect. I'm Monica from TechnoFocus, and I will be serving as your moderator today. We're glad to have Nicolas Georgiou with us, who will be presenting today's session. He is a Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft Certified Trainer on Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. He is currently based in Canada. Now I'd like to turn today's event over to our presenter. Nicolas, the floor is yours now.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicolas Georgiou from TechnoFocus. And today we're going to talk about the PL-600, which is Microsoft Power Platform Solution Architect certification. So now let's go on a couple of tips about this content. The first tip about becoming a solution architect. So we discussed about the fact that a solution architect should have functional and technical knowledge about the Microsoft Power Platform, Dynamics 365 apps, and related Microsoft Cloud solutions, and any other third-party technologies that are around this. So especially when it comes to talk about specific solution for support or to manage the different channels when it comes to talk with the customer. So all these different tools are super important. Not only from a technical perspective, and usually the problem is most of the people knows the product from the technical side, but you also have to know from a functional perspective what these tools are supposed to deliver. Okay, so there's a lot of tools. I mean, Dynamics 365 apps are very there's a lot of solutions here. And if you want to know more about the Dynamics 365, the best place to start is on docs.microsoft.com and find some description about the product, and you can see, and you will see that you can even go on trial.dynamics.com to start new trials and start working with the solution for free. A solution architect should have soft skills like communication, collaboration, and problem-solving skills. So in communication, we are talking about not only being able to organize the communication in the project team, but also the solution architect must be able to present his work and envision his work to let people envision the project. So that's super important to keep this in mind, that communication is a key on all project, and especially if you want to keep your colleague on the long term. It's always really hard, super hard, when it comes to talk and start working on a project to keep the team and think about the way you will integrate new people in the team. Anticipate about the fact that some people will leave the team someday. So you will have to anticipate about all these aspects to manage your team and the way the team will be able to work and develop the solution for you or with you, because it's all about collaboration here. So collaboration is really a key part. And about collaboration, here again, there is two different ways to think about collaboration: the technique side and the real collaboration. So the way you will make sure that people will be involved in the product and you will really collaborate instead of they will really collaborate with you instead of working for you. So that's always super important. And the last thing, the problem-solving skills. That's interesting because this is something I think this pandemic changed a lot with the different teams. Now everyone is working distantly, or most of the people are working distantly. I feel that they are more focused on the problem and the way to solve it. So there is more. It seemed to be more efficient, but I don't know. This is just a feeling, and the problem-solving skills is very, very important. Stay focused on solving a problem and always think out of the box. Some tips about conceptualize the design. So we are, and Microsoft is presenting this fit gap analysis process. So this way to build the different solution. This is a great way. You may find a lot of information about this fit gap analysis process. So it's a process for identifying and documenting gaps between customer needs, the requirements, and the built-in capabilities. So just to evaluate the fit or the gap between the requirement and what the solution is supposed to do out of the box. Okay, so it's really important. You can organize some session with the business users just to evaluate the solution with them, just to identify and make sure you will identify all the gaps and all the fits also, of course. You have to think about all the requirements, not only the technical requirements, but think about the non-functional requirement. Okay, so all the different requirements you will have to deal with. For example, the high availability or the availability for people, even if they don't have any network, for example. So we know that these solutions are online, and you have to think about a solution maybe in different zones where people don't have this network available, for example. But you have to think about this solution availability. And of course, you have to think about the compliance, about the different rules you got. And when it comes to talk about the legacy, it's always super important to work with the legacy team, but not from a legal perspective. You have to make sure that these people will explain exactly what you are supposed to deliver from a compliance perspective. There's a lot of room here to lose a lot of time when it comes to talk about compliance. So stay focused on what is the most important from a compliance perspective, and work based on facts, not assumption. So again, about compliance and rules, work about what the rule said exactly, and not about what you think the rule is actually trying to say. About security, so this is something very, very important at this time. We all know that companies are really concerned about losing data and, get this data used by someone else. And so the security part is really huge. And again, here you have to work with detailed targets, detailed objective about what you try to achieve from a security perspective, because the security is also a huge thing. You will have to work with the security team, which is another team, and these people, like the people that are working with rules, are sometimes thinking differently, and they are using different words. So my tip here, my additional tip here is, in the governance of the project, please think about the glossary, just to make sure that you will talk about the same thing using the same words, because it's so easy to use same words sometime to just talk about different things, especially when it comes to talk about security or very specific topics like security. Scalability, of course, because you will probably have to think about scaling up your solution, but not only scaling up, you may have to think about scaling down your solution. Maybe depending on the season, depending on the way your solution will be used, sometime you will have to scale down the solution for a couple of months or maybe a couple of years. No one was thinking about this situation with the pandemic, for example, and you have to adapt yourself, and you have to adapt to make sure that the solution will be able to adapt. So here, for example, we never know what will happen, and you have to think, okay, maybe some days you will have to give this solution and let more people than you expect at the beginning. Or maybe the situation will totally change the way the solution will be used, and you will have to scale down the solution for a bit. So that's, again, something you will have to think about, especially when it comes to talk about this environment and the way to use the environment, the Power Platform environments. So that will be super important to keep this in mind. Next tips about Microsoft Power Platform Architect overview again. So environment are containers that administrators can use to manage apps, flows, connections, and other assets, along with permissions to allow organization users to use the resources. So it's super easy. The environment is just the way to provide the three key resources we need to build application. The first is the network, this ability to connect things all together, and services or physical parts maybe. The second one is the storage. We need to store. So depending on what you are using, you will need a place where you will be able to store information. It could be a database in Dataverse, for example, if you want to store records. It can be, again, in Dataverse or into Data Lake if you want to store document or, blob. It could be a video, it can be a sound, it could be a recorded sound, it could be big pictures, it could be any blob you want to store, okay? You will need to think about what will be the place where you will store this blob. And the last resource is the compute, the way to execute something. Okay, so these three resources are required whenever you need to build. And you can use a physical computer to get these resources and start developing the application on your computer. But in this situation of the Power Platform, you are using this kind of virtual machine finally. It's a kind of virtual machine that is stored somewhere where you will be able to execute things. Okay, and of course, this virtual machine need to be secured. So you will need to manage the different permissions. The way to use the roles is super important. So think about the way to manage the permissions using the roles instead of assigning permission to users, to people. An environment lives within an Azure tenant, so authentication is through the Azure AD. It's always true. So everything you are doing at Microsoft is based on this Azure AD. So this Azure AD is directly connected to the tenant because this is the very first thing you will build into your Azure tenant when you will build your tenant. So it's super important to manage this, and maybe you will need some premium features depending on what you want to achieve. So if you want to use the conditional access, for example, this will be the place where you will have to invest to get these different things working correctly. You may have to invest also synchronizing the data between maybe your first directory, which is maybe not stored into Active Directory, but maybe into another legacy application. And this directory need to be synchronized and kept synchronized with the AD if you need to use an AD, a local AD to store your directory, and your Azure Active Directory. Not only the users, but also the different groups, the security groups you are using. So all things about the groups will be also important because you get a huge difference between what is a security group and what is still a security group, and what is now an office group, which is a different concept. So you have to know about this. You have to understand how the groups are used, because that will be important to use these groups correctly. I mean, use these groups to assign a role to this group of people, maybe. So that could be the kind of thing you will have to think about. In the Microsoft Power Platform Architect overview again, think about the connectors. So these connectors are important because that allow you to take advantage of the Microsoft Power Platform without moving your data. So you will be able to connect directly on the services or on the data you want to expose in your application or in your automation. So the Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate all leverage connectors, allowing you to analyze, act, and automate across data and services. But you already know that Power BI is different than Power Apps and Power Automate. So probably most of the connectors will be available in Power Apps and Power Automate. I know that Power BI gets some new connectors pretty much every month, but we are not yet at exactly the same level because Power BI works differently with the connector. First of all, you will have to use Power BI Desktop to use all these connectors, and you would have to care about this requirement of the on-premises data gateway, because even if you are using and connecting on an online service using the Power BI Desktop, you will have to publish your model, your data model. Even if you not import but directly connect to the data, you would have to think about this way you will be able to connect to this service and use this connector even when you will be online. And at this moment, all the connectors available in Power BI doesn't work with a direct connection from the cloud. They will need this on-premises data gateway to get the client correctly deployed somewhere on a machine to let your service in the cloud being able to use this connection. So that's it's a bit different. In Power Apps and Power Automate, you sometimes also need this on-premises data gateway. For example, if you want to connect to some on-prem data, if you want to connect on an Oracle database or any local services like SharePoint, you will need to use the on-premises data gateway. Okay, so that would be important to keep this in mind because this on-premises data gateway rely usually on the infrastructure team and network team, and again, that will be that will be an impact on the existing infrastructure. So you have to plan this. Some tips about analytics and artificial intelligence. The Power BI is a self-service platform allowing users to interact with pre-made reports and create their own visualization. So Power BI is a huge product. There's a lot of things to know about Power BI, and especially the way to use Power BI with the data platform. So if you never used and never looked at the data platform yet, you got some certification, the DP-100, which is also super interesting, just to make sure you will be able to understand where the data is stored and how the data will be stored in order to connect the Power BI correctly to this data source and start building these different visualization. In the DP, the data platform, you would also look at the modernization of the data warehouse, what Microsoft is actually doing with Azure Synapse. So this is something important because this is where the data will be prepared. And this is something you have to do every time with Power BI. So you will have to build your data model. But sometimes instead of using Power BI to build a data model, you will have to use Synapse instead, depending on, again, the data sources you will have. So, and the volume of data you will have. So it's important to know a bit about the data platform also. Visualizations are interactive and scalable reports based on collections of different data sources. And that's the thing. You will have to collect data from multiple data sources, which is a very good thing with Power BI, because it's like building a small data warehouse where you will be able to import data or connect data from various sources, and you will be able to build your own data model without requiring any Hadoop or Synapse data warehouse. So that's a small data warehouse where you will be able to do whatever you want. And that's the very good thing about Power BI. Next tip is Power Apps architecture. So of course, you already aware about these 3 different type of Power Apps, and you know the differences between these 3 types. So the canvas is this blank page, really focused on the device. So the Canvas app will let you also access to the device information, like for example, localization or the camera or all these things that sometimes it's difficult to access when you are using a browser. Okay, because for example, the model-driven app will only run into the browser, so you will not be able to access this layer of detail from the device, or you will need to ask to the user to accept this access. So that's the reason why the model-driven app is it's really different than the canvas. The model-driven app runs only in a browser actually, but I know that Microsoft is actually also working on a mobile application that can consume this model-driven application. About the Canvas app, you're probably already aware about this evolution of Dataverse with the Dataverse for Teams, and the way to start using Canvas to build Teams application based on a Dataverse light version. So this is just another thing you have to think about. This is just another way to build Power Platform application and use the Power Platform to start designing Teams application. And the last one is the portal. So the portal only runs into the browser. And the great thing about the portal is the way the users are authenticated is different than the other one, than Canvas and model-driven. With the portal, the users are stored into the account table into the Dataverse. So it's really like a WordPress again. So the users are not directly connected to your Active Directory users. So you can even build a portal without any connection with the Active Directory, just your administrator, let's say. So your users will not need anything else than the portal to start authenticated themselves into the browser, into the portal. But if you want to enforce this authentication, the portal will propose you to get your user authenticated using some other methods like Azure Active Directory, Facebook, Google, and any other authentication providers. So that's the great thing about the portal, and this is the only application that lets this kind of users connect on the portal and even browse the content anonymously. So that's really great. Tips about application lifecycle management, the A&M. So you have to know about Azure DevOps. You have to at least go and try Azure DevOps one time just to know how it works and the way to manage the different processes, the different pipelines. So you will have to use 2 different kind of solutions. You're already aware about this solution, but you will have to go deeper into how to use the solution, especially when it comes to think about the updates, the new versions, and etc. So the unmanaged solution are to be used in development environment while you are making configuration changes to your application. The solutions are exported as unmanaged and checked into a source control system. like DevOps, for example, like Azure DevOps. And unmanaged solution should be considered for source, because you have to keep the source somewhere. So even if you want to export the managed solution for a customer because you just want to release a hotfix, always think to keep an unmanaged version of your solution as a source. The managed solution are just used to deploy to any environment outside of development. So this includes all the environment you will need in order to push your solution into production. So it will be test, UAT, SIT, and production environments, of course. The managed solution should be generated by a build server and considered as a build artifact. And you can use Azure DevOps to do this. So you can push your solution, your unmanaged solution, into your repo using Azure DevOps, unpack your solution into the repo, and whenever you need to deploy this solution into any environment, you will be able to build the solution, okay, from Azure DevOps. So you will be able to build before pushing this solution back into a production environment or test environment. Dynamics 365 application architectures. So I was talking about this application before, so you will have to go back into dynamics.com website, or you can go into trials.dynamics.com to start practicing in a trial environment. So the Dynamics 365 model-driven apps are descended from the CRM, the Customer Relationship Management. These dynamic apps are model-driven apps built on the Microsoft Dataverse platform. And these include sales, customer service, field service, and marketing. And on the other side, the AX had been used to create this ERP solution. So Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation apps are applications which are descended from this ERP. These include Dynamics 365 Commerce, Finance, Human Resources, and Supply Chain Management. About the testing and go live, so as I said, the test is really a very important thing. You have to think about the test from the very beginning. Do not think about the test like just at the end of your project, okay? So functional tests are done to verify that implementation meets requirements. Even if you run some proof of concept, you will have to validate if the proof of concept is legit or not, if it works or not. So you will have to define what will be the test, what would be the thing you will look after in order to validate your proof of concept. So not only the final work, but all along the project, you will have to manage the different tests and organize different kind of tests. So the functional tests are super important. The regression tests, this test will evaluate non-changed function for regression and are typically performed whenever there are system update. So during the project, when you will update the system, you need to guarantee that you are not changing any function, any existing function you were not supposed to touch, you were not supposed to change. So the regression test will be super important just to improve the quality of your application. And that will be important because from an end user perspective, they will look at this. They need to make sure that you will continue developing your solution in the same way, in a consistent way, and you will not break anything when you will release an update, or the users will go crazy with that. Okay, so that would be super important. Now let's talk about the kind of question you will get the day of the certification. So that's important to know that these sample questions I will use during this part are not directly extracted from the certification. So don't see anything here that is a real example or real question that could be found into the certification, of course. So the first kind of question you will get into your exam will be the multi-choice question. So the multi-choice question is about a set of proposal, and you will have to choose what will be the best answer. So you are presented with a short scenario case here. This is followed by one or more set of questions, and you will need to select the best answer, only one answer. And you will see that you got some radio button in front of the proposals. So that means that only one answer can be selected. Next kind of question, the hotspot format. So you are presented here with a short scenario again. This is followed by a question with one or multiple options to be selected correctly. The choice to be selected are presented in drop-down, radio button, or checkbox selection format. The score is gained for each correct answer choice. Another kind of question, the build list format. So you are presented with a procedural task and list of activities. You need to identify and build all the necessary steps to complete the task. On the left side are the action object, which you need to select and move into the answer area on the right. You can drag and drop the object, or you can use the arrow in the middle section of the screen to move the object. If you want to remove your selection from the answer area, use the back arrow or drag the selection back into the action list. And the last part, which is super complex in this kind of question, reordering. To reorder your answers, select the up and down arrow on the right side of your screen, or drag your selection to the desired location in the list. So this kind of question is, from my point of view, the most complex, because you have to select what will be the right answers and put also these answers in the right sequence. So usually the questions are not really hard, super hard, but it's always a bit tricky when you got this kind of question. So remember that you can work in two different steps, identifying first what will be the right actions, and in the second step, arrange them in the right sequence. Next kind of questions, the drag and drop. So you are usually presented with a short scenario again, and this is followed by a question which requires you to match the listed option to the given item or statement. To answer, you have to drag the option listed to match the appropriate item statement. So you have to drag the options that are available on the left to the right side, which is usually the place where you will put the answers. So each option may be used once, more than once, or not at all. And this will be explained in the scenario, okay, in the introduction. The score is gained for each correct answer. So as an example here, I got this kind of question here about the project phases. You are the solution architect at BeRich, an online training service provider that helps students to master their psychology and improve their careers and finances. The company needs to build a solution to send a survey to its subscribers. What is the earliest phase when you, as a solution architect, would you participate in the project? So you got 5 proposals right here. You have to choose only one. Of course, here, the solution will be the pre-sales, the D. So you just have to select the D and click on Next to move to the next questions. Second example here, Power Platform components. You are the solution architect at Contoso. Your developers need to create enhanced data visualization in a Power Apps application. Which components of the Power Platform would you recommend? Is it component library, Power Apps component framework, etc. So here you are a developer, and the question is probably missing information about the kind of application you are using. But here the solution is to use the Power Apps component framework. Okay? So this is just an example, the kind of a question you could get right here. And as an example here, you got this question, solution architect skills. You are working as a senior solution architect at Contoso. Your company plans to hire a new solution architect. Which of the following skills is essential for a solution architect to have? Each correct answer form part of the solution. So you can see here that this is one of the options. Each correct answer forms part of the solution. So you will see the difference maybe, but sometime you will have another kind of question, which is each correct answer form a solution, which is different. So here the answers are collaboration, coordination, communication, and problem solving, which are the soft skills that are required. Another example here, reporting solutions. You are the Power Platform Solution Architect at Contoso. You need to recommend a solution to automate business processes in your organization. Which two solutions would you recommend to automate? Each correct answer present a complete solution, which is different than the previous one. So here the solution will be, of course, Power Automate and Dynamics Workflows. So these are the two solutions that let you automate things in Power Platform. And as an example here, we got the drop-down. So it's about table relationships. You are the newly hired Power Platform Solution Architect at Conference & Co., an event company. You are asked to design the data model that will be used by the new event application that they plan to release for the next conference. You need to define relationships between the rooms, attendees, and sessions tables. Using the drop-down control, choose what will be the right relationship for each of the scenarios. So here you got two questions in the same one. You got two different scenarios, and for each scenarios you will get a drop-down. You will have to click on the drop-down to get the options that are proposed, that are available. And here, for example, for the scenario, sessions must be associated with their attendees. The solution will be the many-to-many relationship that use a system-generated table, and the rooms that must be associated with their sessions. Here, that will be the one-to-many relationship. About just another example about this hotspot kind of question. About table ownership. You are the newly hired Power Platform Solution Architect at Silverweed Cafe, a popular local chain of casual fine dining restaurant with national ambitions. You need to ensure that the data ownership stays with the company for all the solutions you are building. In order to manage the restaurants, you are building a model-driven Power Apps application based on Microsoft Dataverse. You are designing the data model and need to validate table ownership. For each of the scenarios, choose if the statement is true or false. So you got three different questions, and for each question you have to define if it's true or false. First scenario, choosing organization ownership, ensure that data ownership stays with the organization and data is controlled at the organization level. Is that true or false? I think it's true. When the table ownership is set to team, data ownership stays with organization and data is controlled at the organization level. True or false? I think it's false. Choosing user ownership, ensure that data belongs to a user. And here, that will be true. So you got here to select which answer will be good for each scenarios. And as an example here, you got this question here about functional versus non-functional requirement. You are performing an analysis on the below mentioned requirements for a customer. You need to categorize the given requirement into functional and non-functional ones. To answer, drag the appropriate requirement type on the left to the answer area on the right. So you got the two requirement type, functional and non-functional. And we got 4 requirements. So the first one is send an email when cases are assigned. Here, you will drag the functional box on the area here. So that will be a functional requirement. Second requirement, portal must handle 25 concurrent users. This is not a functional requirement. So that would be a non-functional requirement on the second one. Third requirement, environment capacity must remain under 65%. This is again about the capacity, so this is not a functional requirement. So you will drag the non-functional box on the right for this third requirement. And for the fourth requirement, operational data must be remained for at least 1 year. Again, this is a non-functional requirement. So the answer will be functional, non-functional, non-functional, non-functional. So the next kind of question is not only a different kind of question. This is a different part. So during the exam, you will get at least 2 different parts. You will get at least 1 case study. And you will get the other part which will be the global set of questions. You will get probably the most number, the main part of the question in the main part. But you always have at least 1 case study, which is between 5 to 7 questions. Okay? So usually you got at least 1 case study, maybe 2 case studies. And sometimes you get the first case study at the beginning before the main part, and the second case study at the end of the main part. And it's super hard because the time remaining will not be different. I mean, you will have to manage your time by yourself. So when you will connect on the exam, on the certification, you will see the global number of questions, then the global numbers of questions. And you will be able to know when you will jump into the first part. And if you got only 5 questions, you know that it is a case study. And at the end of the case study, you will jump into the main part. And if, again, 5 or 7 questions are missing into the global count of questions, you will know that at the end, you will get another case study. So that will be the way you will be able to anticipate and keep enough time for the last case study if you got one at the end of your exam. At the end of a part, you will click on End Exam in order to jump to the next part. So that's the thing you will have to know. About the case study, so you are presented with a real-world business case, or case scenario. On the left side of the screen, you are presented with the menu option to see detailed information on the background, existing environment, business and technical requirement, and problem statement. Okay? So this case study has multiple questions associated with the business case, each between 5 or 7. Each question in the series contains a unique solution that might meet stated goals. After you answer all the questions in the section, review the answers before moving to the next section of the exam. After you begin a new section, you will not be able to return to the case study and change any of your answers. Okay? But the case study is a small exam itself. At the end, you will get the dashboard on which you will be able to see which question you marked for review and etc. So that's a dashboard you would have to use. Of course, at any time you can mark the question for review just to go back on the question if you need to think more about this question and the answers you will validate. Now let's talk about how to schedule your exam, starting from the web page, the PL-600 page. So the very first thing you have to do is go and visit the PL-600 page, select your country, of course, because the price and the currency will be adapted to your country, and click on Schedule the exam. So that will let you jump into the next page, which will be the page where you will have to authenticate yourself or create an account. So on this page, you will need to authenticate yourself on your existing profile. If you already created a profile before, a training or learning profile on Microsoft website. So at this time, you are on the Microsoft learning website, and you need to identify yourself. If you never created yet any account, please consider using your personal email instead of your professional one, because you don't want to change your email every year or every 2 years. So this is something that is directly associated with your personal identity. So that's the reason why this learning profile it's all usually better if you keep this learning profile attached to your personal email. You have to think that you will have to use your Microsoft account, not your Microsoft work account. I mean, not your Office 365 account. So here, you will need a Microsoft account. If you don't have any Microsoft account, you can just go back into Outlook and create an account on Outlook.com, and you will get a Microsoft account. Okay? So that will be the kind of account you will have to use just to create your profile. When you will define your profile, that will be super important to care about your legal name, the legal name you will use in this profile, because this information needs to be consistent. So if for any reason you made a mistake in your legal name or need to change anything, you can see that you cannot change your name by yourself. You will have to open a ticket with the support to ask changing your name. So please feel free to go into that page and add all the details about you, and click on, at the end of the page, click on Next to move to the next page. The next page will not be out of Microsoft Learning. The next page will be the second tab you got here on the left side. So on the second tab, you will be able to get an access to the exam discounts. So from the exam discount page, you don't have anything to do on this page. So you can just forget about that page. About your certification profile, if you got any error on top of your certification profile, the system in the error will provide you a link to open a ticket directly. So you will get the link right here to open a ticket directly with the support. So please make sure everything is correct. You don't have to wait. You can just go and manage your profile and double check if everything is correct before before getting registered on the certification. So on the second tab, the exam discount, you just have to click on Schedule Exam, and you can see that the icon is a bit different on the button. That means that you will move to another website. Even if it looks similar to the previous one, at this point, you are on Pearson VUE. You are on the Pearson VUE website, which is not on the Microsoft website anymore. But you don't have to create your account, because Pearson VUE is teaming with Microsoft, and the account will be automatically created when you will jump into Pearson VUE web page. So on this Pearson VUE, you got a lot of information. And the very first one you will have to select is select here on VUE you will take the exam using on VUE, the online tool at home or office. And when you will click on this button, you will get these 4 options that will appear. So we will go through these 4 options. With the first one, which is your computer, just make sure that everything will be okay for the day of the certification. So you just have to click on Run the System Test here. You can run it when you will register, or you can run it few days before your certification, okay? Because depending on when you will plan to take your certification, you know that Microsoft release a lot of upgrades every week on Microsoft Windows 10, and sometime my recommendation is sometime you will have to re-execute this system test a few days before your certification, just to make sure that no updates changed anything on your computer. So when you will click on system test, you will run into a short version of OnView, a specific version of OnView that is dedicated to test your system. So you will download an exe file and you will execute this file on your computer. Please make sure you always use the latest version of OnView. So the first thing you will have to check on this OnView program is the microphone, because most of the computers, especially if you got a portable one or mobile one, got sometimes multiple microphones or multiple webcams. So here you will have to select what will be the right microphone, the one you want to use, and you will just have to speak to validate that the microphone is currently correctly working. You will check also the internet speed. So the most important is not specifically the speed, because as you can see, the download speed is not, and upload and download is not very high, okay? But you will have to check if the firewall is not blocking your connection. So here the tool will tell you if everything is correct about your network. Please do not use any VPN during your certification, and you will have to stop your VPN to run the system check, of course. Some companies got some firewalls that will block the access of this test, so you will probably have to troubleshoot this. It's also important to test your system in the real condition, in the condition you will have the day of the certification. That means that if you go and take the certification from office, you have to run this system check from the office. Okay, that will be important just to make sure that everything will run correctly for the day of the certification. The next test you will have to run is the webcam. So you will have to select which webcam you will use, and you will see your image, your picture in the black square right here. So sometimes you will get some errors like this, and you will get some additional links to help you diagnosing and troubleshooting this kind of error. So clicking here, you will get some additional help to troubleshoot this error. And at any time, you will be able to rerun the test to validate that now everything is correct. And when everything is green, you will be able to click on Next to move to the end of the system check. This OnView system check will let you practice a bit the kind of question and the form of the exam, asking you a couple of questions right after that. So if you want, you can just go through this, or you can stop the system check whenever you're ready, whenever you just validate your system is ready. So when you will click close on the system check, you will go back to this page where you can just go into others information, other detail about the testing space. So the day of the certification, you will need to clean your desk. So the desk needs to be perfectly clean without any second screen, without any information that can help you during the certification on your desk or on your walls. So the testing space is super, super important, because you don't want to be in a rush few minutes before starting your certification. Your photo ID will be important, because that will be the way to validate and certify your identity. So the day of the certification, the OnView program will ask you to take a selfie and will compare this picture with the picture you've got on your ID, and it will compare the name you've got on your ID. So there's a cognitive services thing that is reading your government ID in the background, and will compare this information with the one you provided. And the last thing is a short video to explain you how it will work. So the OnView program is released 30 minutes before your appointment time. So that means that you can just start registering 30 minutes before your appointment time. And this short video will explain you all the details about this. So here on this page, you can just click on Next to move to the next one, which is the Online Exam Policies Agreement. So you will have to read the agreements right here and agree with these policies before clicking here on Agree. So you will have to check all these different lines and click on Agree to move to the next page. So the next page will be the place where you will have to select in which language your proctor will talk to you. Because the day of the exam, the proctor will help you in the registration process. So he will have to talk to you probably. And here you just have to click English because we don't have that much choice. So you will have to click English and click on Next. On the next page will be the place where you will have to select the dates. So on the first part, you will have first to select the date on the calendar. So you will see here what will be the available dates in the future. So you will have to select here the date, and as soon as you click on the date, the part below will appear and will ask you to select how you want to view available time, 12-hour or 24-hour, and you will get at the bottom the available rooms to take your exam. And you just have to select the available time of your preference. Okay? So whenever you will click on this button, you will be automatically redirected to review the order and checkout page. So that will be the cart page where you will have to double check the exam number, the language, you get information about the exam length right here, and you got the detail about the appointment. So for any reason, if you need to change the appointment, you just have to click on Change Appointment link right here, and you will go back to the calendar. At the end here, when you will review the document, when you will have to review the document, this information, you just have to click on Proceed to Checkout button. To move to the Review Exam Rescheduling Cancellation Policies coming from Microsoft. So sometimes this page now is mixed with the global policy. So sometime, depending on the version of your certification, you will see that these two policies policy page will be on the same one. Okay, so you just have to review this policy and click at the bottom on the Accept button. When you will click on the Accept button, you will move to the Add Payment or Voucher Code page. So on this page, you will see the balance, which is not 0, and you will have to provide your card details, because even if you got a voucher, you need to validate the transaction to book your certification. So here, because you got a voucher, you will have to click on Add Voucher or Promo Code. So this will make this voucher promo code field appear. So you will have to put your voucher promotion code right here and click on Apply. You need to click on Apply to apply this to the balance, and you will see that when you will click on Apply and if the voucher promo code is valid, you will get the balance set to 0. The estimated total due will be set to 0 right here. And even if the balance is set to 0, you need to complete the payment process, to put the card number and go further, go through the different pages to validate your payment. At the end of this process, you will receive 2 different emails. The first one about the transaction. So that will make sure that the transaction was correct, was valid, and the second email will validate your booking. So you will receive the second email that will give you details about the date and time you booked for this certification. before the exam day. So review the ID policies before the exam day and be prepared to show your government ID and a valid one. I mean, signed and valid and unexpired. Okay? So the government ID must have your signature and must have your photo. And this government ID needs to be a valid one. And the name on the registration must match the name on the government issued ID exactly. Because this will be an artificial intelligence that will check this for you. So, they will look after exactly the same name. Sometimes you got, a junior or an additional information, a suffix or something in your name. The system doesn't matter, to be honest. So the system will just try to recognize the same name and the same first name and the same last name and make sure this match exactly. So the day of the exam, you have to go back on the Microsoft Learning desktop. So you just have to go back on Microsoft Learning, authenticate yourself, and you will find your dashboard. On your dashboard page, you will see that you got a square right here called appointment, where you will find your future appointment. And you are supposed to find here your appointment about the PL-600. At the bottom of this area, you will find a link called Start a Preview Schedule Online Proctor Exam. You can click on this link and you will be redirected to Person View, where you will see the list of your exam, your planned exam, and you will find the link to the PL-600. You just have to click on this PL-600 link on Person View. You will open a page where 30 minutes before your exam, a yellow button will appear. In this yellow button, you will find Begin to start the check-in process. Okay? So usually this button is available 30 minutes before your booking time. Okay? That will let you enough time to go through the check-in process. But just to let you know, you have to go and jump into this check-in process between 30 minutes before the time the button will be available and 15 minutes after your scheduled appointment time, this yellow button will disappear and you will lose this opportunity to connect and check in on this exam and you will lose your voucher. Okay? So pay attention to this. So now it's time to recap what we covered. The exam format and the question type and scoring methodology. We discussed about becoming a solution architect, conceptualize the design, the project governance and working as a team, and Microsoft Power Platform Architect overview. We talked about data modeling, analytics and artificial intelligence. We covered the Power Apps architecture and the application lifecycle management. We talked about the Power Automate, security modeling, integration, Dynamics 365 application architecture, and of course, the Power Virtual Agent architecture, the robotic process automation, the RPA, and we talked about testing and go live. And right at the end, we covered the potential tips useful for the exam. So whenever you need some information, you can just get started with Partner Technical Services. This TPD consultant, this technical pre-sales and deployment, are here to help you with all the different projects you've got. So if you got any current project about Power Platform, this will be the place where you will find all the information. And you can even get in touch with someone and ask your question. And this question will help you to understand how the Power Platform works and will help you with this certification content. So I hope you enjoy this training and I hope you will find enough information to get prepared for your certification and successful with this certification, which is a really great one actually. I know a lot of companies are actually looking for specifically this kind of people, this kind of certified people. So I wish you good luck, and I wish you a very, very pleasant day ahead.
Thank you for sharing all the valuable information on this exam prep session. I hope this will prove useful to our participants while preparing for their exam. Thanks to all our participants for being with us throughout this series. We wish you all the best for your exam. Goodbye.